Hi YouTube, how are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's been a while. We are back with a conversation with Cleopatra, and today we'll be talking about Halloween and sacrifice. Ooh, we are in Halloween season. It is currently October 20th, and actually today we have a full moon, so I thought today would be even more of a grand experience to have a conversation with Cleopatra about this topic. All right, we are 11 days from Halloween, or something like that. I think it's on the 30th or the 31st. I don't remember. But it's just Halloween is a celebration I find for the dead in general. And I kind of want to know maybe Cleopatra's perspective of Halloween, how we celebrate it, and what sacrifice and things like that meant in yesterday's age. By the way, sacrifice still does happen today, just in different ways. Anyways, I'm gonna let Cleopatra talk, alright? Because that's what we do here. Definitely subscribe, like, share if you would be interested in a reading from me. Check out my website, LamarrTownsendTarot.com. I can connect to your ancestors, your spirit guides as well, or I can also do psychic tarot readings, birth chart readings, and more. If you would be interested in any of those things, check out my website, LamarrTownsendTarot.com. This is my website. This is my website, LamarrTownsendTarot.com. So once you've reached this page, you know you're on the right page. Definitely follow me down there on Instagram. Check out my Twitch, my YouTube, my Patreon, and my Spotify. Alright, become a Patreon member because I do a lot of topics on Patreon. Alright, definitely if you would like a personal reading though, become a member of my YouTube channel and all different types of things. But also check out the website, LamarrTownsendTarot.com, because here's where you can view all the different rates, services, and products I offer. As you can see, I do birth chart readings, psychic tarot readings, mediumship readings, past life readings. I do candles and so much more. I also do sell African black soap, which is an amazing soap for eczema, dry skin, and acne issues as well. Alright, so I definitely would check those things out on my website. But also, like I was saying, if you want to become a Patreon member, then definitely check out my Patreon as well. On my Patreon, I do a lot of conversations with Cleopatra as well. The last reading I did a class on the magic of connecting with and communing with your ancestors, which is the top tier of my Patreon. All right, you have access to classes. The day before that, I talked about the upcoming full moon in Aries that's going on today. Before that, I did a conversation with the Egyptian Queen Nefertiti. I would definitely check that out, become a Patreon member. I also talked with the Roman god Cupid and the Greek god Hermes, so a lot goes on over here on my Patreon, so I definitely would check that out over here and keep updated with me over here because I tend to post more frequently and I tend to keep my Patreon more updated than most of my social media pages at this time, day and age. Alright, so alright, so there we go. A lot going on today. We're also coming up off of a Mercury retrograde, so it's a lot going on. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the reading on Queen Cleopatra. Let's go ahead and burn some sage as the first thing we're going to do, and we're just going to invite Cleopatra to come through. Thank you for cleansing and clearing the energy of this space from any past readings. Thank you for opening up the channel so that I can have a good conversation with Cleopatra, so that Queen Cleopatra the 7th can come through and sit down and have a conversation with us about sacrifice and Halloween. Thank you for allowing Cleopatra to feel safe and sacred in this space, and just thank you for protecting this space, my energy, my thoughts, my mind, and my emotions, Cleopatra's energies, thoughts, minds, and emotions, and the energies, of course, thoughts, minds, and emotions of those watching this video and joining us here. I feel very happy today. My hair is moving. It's starting to move finally because it's getting longer, so Cleopatra has always told me for the longest time to do something with my hair because I was in that weird stage of I cut my dreads and then now I'm growing my hair out again. So, anyways, welcome Queen. How are you? Today we want to talk about Halloween and sacrifice and your opinions and beliefs and knowledge on these topics. Remember, part 1, this is part 1. Part 2 will be available for YouTube members only, alright? The first thing she says is that sacrifice still goes on today. Sometimes it happens when you don't even know it or you least expect it. Sometimes it happens in ways that you don't even realize. But sacrifice is always happening. She says the gods are always being appeased. And she says it just like that. The gods are always being appeased. Sorry, I'm having all these things pop up on my screen. I don't want it to mess up with the recording. But she's saying the gods are always being appeased. She says there's good gods and bad gods to appease. She says the gods of light are typically those who maybe don't require much sacrifice or only require sacrifice. At least she's saying it from her perspective in the old day and age. She's saying the gods of light don't require as much sacrifice as those of darkness. Maybe as those more associated with the underworld, for example, and things of that nature. But she kind of says that everything is a sacrifice. And she keeps putting it in my mind in today's day and age, and this might be a bit morbid, this may, hurt people's feelings or something like that, so she's saying kind of brace yourself. She's putting it in my energy, this, like, idea of a family matriarch or a patriarch. Like eventually, usually, and she's kind of putting it in my mind that this is may have been how it was also in ancient Egypt or in ancient times, that it was the family matriarch or the family patriarch that kind of, the grandmother, the grandfather, the great-grandmother, the great-grandfather that kind of kept things together and kept the glue of the family together, because it was usually these people that held the family history and knowledge and wealth, and it was also these people that kept a connection to everyone or had a connection to everyone and everyone came to. But once that person left, it's like you kind of have to think of it in the sense that, like, yes, like this person, great-grandmother, great-grandfather, grandmother, grandfather, patriarch, matriarch, kept the glue together, but that's kind of the issue on a spiritual level or a soul level as well, is that it glues everything and everyone together, so everyone's kind of stuck in place. And in order for things to kind of be broken apart, and you know how it is when you're trying to take, something that's been glued down, to something or a surface, it's, you rip it off, either the surface is ruined or whatever you ripped off is ruined, or, you're not ripping it off or ungluing something or unsticking something without some sort of damage ensued, unless you know what you're doing, but typically you're still going to receive some sort of damage. Like, that's how it is when she's saying, like, a matriarch or a patriarch, a grandmother, grandfather, great-grandmother, great-grandfather, who was important in your life and other people's lives within the family dies. When they die, aka maybe they're sacrificed, in a spiritual sense, they have to leave this earth. They have to sacrifice themselves or be sacrificed in order to unstuck some things, because they were the glue that kept everything together. Now everything has to be unstuck, and people need to grow on their own journey. So it's like, she's saying maybe in the human realm you don't see it like that, but she's kind of saying in a way it ties into Halloween and the celebration of the dead, and how even when there is a celebration of the dead, like the Mexican celebration of the dead, Dios de los Muertos, she says, during the Halloween festivities in America and all over the world, she's saying really it's a celebration of those maybe who have sacrificed themselves, in order for, or the ancestors who have sacrificed themselves in order for those who are still living to see more clearly, to be able to still thrive, to, appreciate the knowledge and wisdom that they did give here on earth as in heaven, as they will also give in heaven watching down. It's kind of like, it goes deep, sacrifice. So she's kind of making it seem like don't think sacrifice is necessarily a bad thing because it's actually happening all around you. She's kind of going, that's death. Not all death is a sacrifice, but that's kind of a part of death, is the sacrifice of some sort. Even if it's on a spiritual level, a soul level that one can't see. She's kind of going, think of it. It's usually Death is unfortunate, it's sad, and she's kind of going, even as queen. For me, sometimes when my comrades passed away or died in battle, it was sad for me. I had to take a few days to gather myself. I wasn't, she's kind of going, I wasn't some ruthless killing machine. I was a human being, she says. I was a human being at one point, and human beings have feelings. So she's kind of saying, acknowledge your feelings. She's acknowledging the fact that when someone dies, when someone passes away, when there is death, there is a sadness, of course, especially if that person meant something to you, but at the same time, she goes that there is a meaning, an ultimate meaning on a soul level that maybe you don't see quite yet in that moment, but maybe it could be 10 months, 10 weeks, 10 years down the line. It's like, man, I really miss mom. I really miss dad. I really miss great granddaddy or great grandma. For me, I was lucky to grow up with my great grandfather and great grandparents. I know it's a very rare experience. But it's like I missed them, but man, they taught me so much. I'm so grateful for what they taught me. I'm so grateful for the memories. If it weren't for them, and maybe in their death, teaching me, through the sacrifice of themselves, that life is not forever. It's made me a better person 10 months later, 10 weeks later, 10 years later. Maybe all been a bit sadder person, a bit more depressed, a bit more emotionally imbalanced, however it is you deal with, grief. But it's like you see the good in it. If there ever is a good. Now, is all death sacrifice? No. All right. But she kind of goes to some degree, yes. All right. And she just goes not in the way you think. Now she says personally she loves Halloween because it's a celebration of the dead. And now she's no longer living, so often she's kind of going, people will dress up as me, and it keeps my memory alive. So she likes Halloween for that matter. But she's saying she likes it because it's a celebration of the spiritual realm. It's a time where the spiritual realm gets to come out and play, as she says. Um, it's an honor. She goes, the American way is to industrialize it and find a way to make money off of it. She says, but at the core of Halloween, she says, a celebration of the dead. She kind of goes, think about it, you watch a lot of movies or during Halloween. Maybe not all of you watching this, but a lot of people watch movies of people dying, people getting killed, slasher movies. Hello, side note, Cleopatra, there's Scream 5 coming out, and I'm hoping to go to the theaters to see that, okay? So she's right, we do like watching those kind of movies. So it's like, it's kind of, she says, in a way, it desensitizes you to death, but in a way mocks it at the same time. If anyone knows how to stop Google Chrome notifications from popping up, I thought I did it, but it still pops up whenever someone posts a YouTube video. And I love YouTube content creators, but when I'm filming my videos, I don't care that you filmed a video or uploaded a video. Unless you're someone I really, really care about. Anyway. It's just frustrating. I wish it would stop. I can't find a way to make it stop the notifications. Sorry, Cleopatra. She kind of goes, yeah, no, it's annoying. Why is this happening during my time? Um, but she kind of turns away from the computer because I have my laptop here. You guys can't see it, but I have my laptop here. She kind of turns away from it and turns back to me, and she's like, okay, there's some weird things going on with your laptop, but maybe it's the planets or whatever. She kind of turns to me and she's like, whatever. Um, she says it's a celebration of the dead, and the dead should be celebrated. Period. She's very shown in her words with this. She's very like, the dead should be celebrated. What more is there to say? She says even herself, I sacrificed myself. It's been alleged that I was murdered. It's been alleged that I, committed suicide. She says I had a hand in my own doing or my own killing. Irregardless, so it's like she says she sacrificed herself for her own country. Her death was a sacrifice for her own country, for her children, for the well-being of her country and her children. She says death is a beautiful thing. That's why it is celebrated. That's why you do have funerals and you adorn the casket with beautiful flowers and beautiful trims and, beautiful, bronze, gold, steel, outlining. Much like they did with the kings and the queens and the pharaohs and the tombs, you know. She says everyone's so afraid of dying, but no one's living. She says you live through the dead live through you. Interesting. You live through the dead and the dead live through you. She's kind of winding down. She's like, let's get prepared for part 2 here in a bit. But, she says there's math, and this I've heard this numerous times. I've heard this from Osiris, I've heard this from Anubis, that there's numbers and math involved with death as well. So there's some sort of numerical data ordering of everyone's birth and death. Alright? It's all numbers. Can you find the exact number or algorithm or, quantity or numerological or numerical precise date you're gonna die? She says perhaps if you study math, perhaps if you study quantum physics or something like that, ratios she's showing me, it's deeper than you think, she says. And she says your death is also tied into other people as well, in their numbers, in their soul paths, because it has your deaths have an impact. So it's not, your death is not just you. So she says once again, in that way, death is a sacrifice. Wow. So then she says, she turns right at the camera, looking at you all. She says, so what are you willing to sacrifice once you perish? What are you willing to die on? What are you willing to leave this earth and say, I did it for you? Everything I did it for you. I did it for this. Doesn't have to be dramatic. But she says, know that, there is an end date. Know that, everything has to end. Everyone eventually has to end. So it's like she's kind of saying, your life is a sacrifice. You're born, but the sacrifice is that you die. Wow, this is getting a bit morbid. So she says to end the video, because she kind of laughs once, she's like, Cleopatra's a dark sense of humor. She kind of laughs when she sees, things are getting a bit morbid, and she sees me, like, kind of panicking in my head, like, how do I end this? Oh my god. She finds that kind of stuff funny. But anyway, she goes, celebrate death. Just as life should be celebrated, death should be celebrated. It should be celebrated openly. It should be celebrated openly, and it shouldn't be criticized. She's kind of saying, like, grieve how you must grieve, but celebrate death. It's just a transition. And she kind of goes, she ends the video by saying, she kind of goes like this, and every Halloween as you dress up as me, you bring me to life. See, she has such a dark sense of humor. I love that. I love that she can kind of laugh at herself and get us together at the same time. Cleopatra, this has been a blast. We're going to get ready for part 2 here. So, once again, if you want to see part 2, become a member of my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening and watching, Cleopatra. Thank you so much for coming through. Until the next conversation, love and light. Remember, if you would like a personal reading, check out my website, lamarrtownsendtarot.com. I'd love to read for you. My books are free and clear, so I'm available. Get me now while I'm hot, all right? Or while I'm free, basically. All right, you guys. I'll see you in part 2.